Well, we just played some good intro music there. It's a good intro still, isn't it, Chris?
Thanks.
Makes me laugh.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun. Bit of fun.
I know. Hey, look, we liked episode 1 so much that we decided that we were going to do episode 2.
Yeah. On the Music Bar podcast.
Of the new, what'd you say?
The Music Bar podcast.
I thought you said the Nudie Bar podcast.
No, it's a different podcast we do.
Oh, that's the other one.
When you wear pants. We don't wear pants.
I don't wear pants in that one. That's a bit, yeah, I know. Anyway, the Music Bar podcast with Chris and Dan. Oh, we got off to a good start with this one there. We were pretty good because I thought we were getting a little morbid and a little, with the last episode a little bit. We were talking about not seeing people and, and because we had this conversation about, you brought it up about Metallica and the record sales and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because, we often talk about Metallica a lot. It's just a bit of a touchstone, I suppose. The Black Album sold, so many copies and possibly still continues to sell boatloads of copies. Whereas the last 2 albums, Death Magnetic and Hardwired to Self-Destruct, sold significantly fewer. I mean, we're talking significantly fewer.
Yeah.
In this era of streaming, in the last 22 years, and can you believe it's been that long? We've been, when Napster came out in 2000 and Metallica sued in 2001, it's been 22 years we've had to live in this world. And musicians are still struggling. It's harder for young bands.
Yeah.
It's harder for it's harder for all the bands, really, isn't it?
It is. It's hard for most bands to make money in general anyway.
Mm.
You have to get to a certain level. That's when you start making a good income and a good living, so you can actually just make it your full-time job. But a lot of bands don't have that opportunity or the ability to do so. When you said about Metallica, I was watching that graph the other day on YouTube, the graph of all the sales, and I was really shocked by the fact that Death Magnetic didn't sell them very many albums, even though they had a very big gap in between Saint Anger and Death Magnetic.
5 years.
You would have thought after such a big gap that they would have sold a lot more because everyone would be waiting for it to come out. And then Saint Anger obviously didn't do very well, but it actually did better at the original point than what Death Magnetic did. So Hardwire, I thought, would have done a lot better, but didn't. So these bands are not making a lot of money in album sales anymore, but they'd have to tour instead. But the problem with touring is we can't at the moment.
No one's touring.
So how they make money is just beyond me. So bands like Metallica and all those big ones are fine. They're never going to have to worry about that. But there's a lot of new bands starting out and they're struggling from the very beginning. They don't get to play, they don't get to record, and all the recordings are just basically not making any money off it. It's
just a recording now is just to get the band's name out there.
Yeah.
The only person I think at the moment who is actually making money from recordings is Adele.
Really?
I think so. Well, I think 30, this new album of hers is actually selling. She's actually selling physical copies.
Is she?
Yes.
Wow, that's rare.
I think it's probably because she's appealing to that audience that really want to buy CDs.
They probably still have the CD player in the house, car.
Yeah, in the car, and she's appealing to them. But the last album of hers, 25, that album?
No idea.
Oh, come on, Chris. She's the biggest selling artist in the world at the moment, I think.
Don't need to know a name of the albums, though.
Well, the last album, 25, and the one before that, the one that was huge that sort of broke her everywhere, both went diamond status in America, which is 10 million copies. 10 million physical copies. There's only a few albums that have entered.
Is the 10 million physical copies including a download of the album?
Sorry, say that again?
Is the physical, though? You're saying physical?
Yeah.
So actually in your hand.
Even downloads, too. But if you buy the download, that's still...
A class as an album.
A class as an album, yeah. If you count that.
It's a physical copy.
Yeah. So Adele is the only one, I think, out there that's actually selling records.
What a world.
So...
I'm not saying she's bad, because I think she's really good.
Yeah,
but just to hear that, and to know that from the band's point of view who aren't doing very well in that sense, it's scary and worrying for them.
Well, yeah, when you consider, I suppose in the 90s, bands sold lots and lots and lots of records. I didn't bring it with me, but I have those books on the biggest selling albums of the particular decades. Back in Black sold 25 million copies. But in saying that, Alanis Morissette's album, Jagged Little Pill, has sold 28 million copies.
Wow.
You know, Shania Twain's Come On Over sold nearly 30 million copies just in America. These are just in America. These aren't worldwide figures. These are just in America. That's
incredible.
That's incredible. When you consider they're selling that level of record, and now you're not seeing those sales. You're never going to see an album sell as many copies as Michael Jackson's Thriller. Thriller is the biggest selling album of all time.
How many?
In America, I think it's over 30 million. They do try to count worldwide sales, which are hard because not every country catalogues it the same.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's around 100 million for Thriller. All up. Nothing will ever beat that. Nothing will ever sell in this day and age as many copies as Thriller.
No.
You know, that's it. It's done. And when you think about that's a hell of a mountain that's never going to get climbed again. No one is ever going to say, because as Gene Simmons said, and it's true, once we all started getting our music for free,
yeah,
why would we pay for it?
Yeah,
which is a shame. I'm ashamed of myself in a little way, but I couldn't help it. Honestly, I couldn't help it. For a while. I never used it. I got to admit, I never used it.
And I used Limewire for a little while back those days, but I didn't like the quality of it.
The quality was terrible.
So, yeah, just never really listened to it. I used to still go buy the CD if I liked the song, which I still do now, but I don't buy the CD anymore. I buy the vinyl if I like the album.
I was literally going to my local library and getting the CD and ripping them.
Oh, really?
Honestly, that's what I was doing. But, I mean, like, this is probably an old computer we got here.
Assistance.
It is. But computers now don't have CD drives in them.
No, this one does, but it's old.
It's an old
2012.
one. Whoa, it's a dinosaur. How does it keep going? We do have troubles with
Apple
this thing.
Apple make good computers.
They do. Apple?
Apple.
Your iPads. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Your screen cloths are really nice too.
Are they really?
Yeah, $20.
Are they good? Because you got an Apple Watch. Wait, what are we talking about? Why are we giving Apple?
Off the road. But, so yeah, bands like Metallica and other bands, they make their money by touring. They can't tour anymore. So then what do? Like I said, the bigger bands are fine, but the smaller ones are going to struggle. So then how do they get by selling their product? They merchandise, they do this, but it's never going to be the same if it continues to be lockdown constantly.
Well, we're trying not to
restrictions down all the time.
It's restrictions more than lockdowns now, and also it's coming down to the venue operators and not so much that. I'm going to talk personally. I don't actually even want to be in a crowd at the moment.
Right.
I'm very wary about being in a crowd now. This is actually a thing this is going to flip over to movies, which is what's happening at the moment in the movie industry. Is the biggest movie this year and the biggest one at the moment, which will date us, I'm sure, but Spider-Man No Way Home. Mm-hmm. It's done huge business. 2 films that were aimed at older audiences, The Last Duel, the Ridley Scott film,
right,
and West Side Story, which is fantastic. I saw that, and it was absolutely fantastic. But both have been box office duds because they're appealing to an older crowd.
Who won't go out.
Who aren't going out, who are sitting there going, no, why do I want to do that? It's the young people are still young people. But yeah, it's true. The younger crowd, under 35s, are still wanting to go to the movies and go out and see and do stuff. So it's the older crowd that aren't going out, Chris. You know, and they're going to be if someone like me is sitting there going, well, I don't want to go out. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So what's going to get me to go to a show?
True.
Really and honestly, I'm to this point now where I'm thinking, is it worth it? You know, to stand in a crowd. When I was young, I loved being in a crowd and being in a mosh and all that sort of stuff.
Same. And I think you'll find over time, like, give it a few months, things might change again because the vaccinations and everything will be, higher up and everyone will be sick and everyone will get over it and move on. Mm-hmm. Give it a few months and things might change, but until then we don't really know, do we?
We don't know, do we?
And people can't make plans and people can't, they can make plans, but they'll probably cancel again like they've been doing or postponing again like they're doing. So it makes it really hard for all of us, but also bands and the movie industry, like you said. It's tough.
I think it's affected the entertainment industry so much. probably the only industry that didn't affect too badly were games, because people play games at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely affected the all those entertainment industries where we actually have to go out and see a show or something like that. We actually have to get in our cars, leave, go find a car park, stand in a queue, go to the bar, shoulder to shoulder with people, that sort of thing. It's not as an appealing a prospect as it once was.
No, and you were saying before in the car on the way down here too that, like Alice Cooper, he's fortunate enough to be able to support his whole crew still. Where a lot of bands can't do that, especially when they're small.
And this is another thing I think a lot of people don't have in their minds about artists. It's not just the four guys in the band.
Yeah.
It's not just that. It's these four guys, or whoever, how many people are in the band, are supporting an army. They are the industry. They are supporting an army.
They're the face for what you see, but you don't know what's behind the scenes.
What's behind the scenes, you know? And I read that about Alice Cooper. It was because he's able to. Because Alice has been good. He's got businesses and stuff. He's been paying his crew. He's been supporting his crew to go with. That's not the guys who set up the stage when they come from town to town. That's another industry altogether. This is the people that keep the Alice Cooper machine rolling.
So guitar techs and drum techs.
You got it.
That kind of guy. Yeah.
Those kind of people, the sound people, the mixers, the lighting technicians, and the people who actually get on the planes and go on the tour everywhere.
Yeah.
It's always a massive army of people that keep this stuff going.
And it's really good of him to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And to say, yes, I can do it and I will do it.
Yeah.
A lot of bands wouldn't do that. They'd probably go, sorry, we can't afford to.
Oh, yeah. Well, they can't afford to, yeah.
But who knows how long it's going to be. I think, is he touring now? Well, he just finished a tour, Alice Cooper, last year.
Did he? Yeah, he just finished one, yeah.
Yeah, they just finished their
tour. I saw him just before the restrictions hit in 2020, the first time.
Yep.
That's when I saw Alice Cooper.
Yep.
February that year. It was the second last show I saw before all the lockdowns happened and everything like that. Nita Strauss was great, you know. And Alice still puts on. Alice is Alice. He puts on a show.
Yeah.
He doesn't give. He gives 100%, and he's not a young guy either.
No, he's what?
70. They're all in their 70s.
70s, yeah.
All those guys from the 70s are now in their 70s. What can you say?
Yeah, true.
70s was 50 years ago now, man. Officially, the 70s is 50 years ago. The 80s was 40 years ago.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, we talk about, you talk about that in the cruise. I remember two distinct stories about that sort of thing. I remember there was that great Dixie Chicks documentary about when Natalie Main said that thing about George W. Bush.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed I'm from Texas or something like that. And oh my God, the backlash those girls got. Yeah. And death threats and things like that.
Really. It basically didn't.
It destroyed them. They never really came back well. You know, and they've actually just come back as the Chicks now. They don't even call themselves Dixie.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, Dixie because of the connotations of slavery and stuff like that, which is, so they call themselves the Chicks, but never as big as what they ever were. But I remember in this documentary, there's a scene where they walk into the record company or something. There's a building for the record company, and they said, and it's huge. It's like this big, and they said, yes, all these people here work for you.
Oh.
And it wasn't just the whole record. It was just this wing, and you can see the girls are like, what?
That's daunting, isn't it?
Yeah, and they said, yeah, all these people in this wing of the building, they work for you. They're working on the Dixie Chicks. That's the Dixie Chicks team. Wing, so to speak. That's how big they were.
That's wild.
And you could just see they were just like, we were just like three girls in a band, you know? It's like, it's become this. And another one that always got was Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead.
Yep.
He was a very, very sick man before he died. You know, he had type 2 diabetes. He had a heroin addiction. He was not a well man in any capacity whatsoever. And Grateful Dead were a band that were never big outside of America. In America, they were massive, but here I don't think in Australia, there's a few deadheads here and there, but the Grateful Dead, they used to do a summer tour every year in America, and it was always one of the top 10 grossing tours of that particular year. And as I said, Jerry Garcia, the band leader, was an incredibly unwell man, and he kept getting told by his doctors, "You got to give it up.
Oh, really?
Your health is too much. You have got to give it up." And he said, and this is what he said: if I give up, then that means the band is done, which means all these people who work for me no longer have a job. And he felt great responsibility to that. He said, there's 150 people in our crew who've all married, kids, going to college, paying mortgages, all that sort of stuff. So if I quit, that's all gone. And that's where we're talking about money make for these guys. And as I said, Jerry felt great and great responsibility for that. Yeah. He unfortunately did die of a heart attack, and it all had to go and stop. So it was kind of this double-edged sword for the guy, But yeah, what do you do? You all these people work for you.
Yeah.
I remember when Bruce Springsteen came out on a tour to Australia, and he had one of the guys from Sony Records come into the record store, and he said, Bruce Springsteen's entourage is 200 people. That's including crew and band. But that's 200 people. They had to bring 200 people to Australia.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And he just sold his
Catalogue
for...
and this is where they are making money. We're going back to this.
Money, yeah.
His is probably the biggest one now, isn't it?
I think it's 400?
500.
500 million? His whole catalogue?
I did see an interesting thing, because Motley Crue have done it now. Nicky's done it now. David Bowie. I just saw the David Bowie one.
Oh, did
I was surprised at how little Bowie went for.
How much?
250 mil.
Okay.
In comparison to Springsteen. I mean, Springsteen's catalogue's massive. But apparently it's tax reasons in America.
Ah, right.
Yes, royalties, they pay more tax. But if it's a buyout, they pay less tax. It's only a 20% tax. So they just get this lump sum. They don't have to pay a lump sum of tax. Whereas royalty checks, they're paying 40% or something like that. Ooh. It's ridiculous what they were paying. So they're letting that's what it is. It's a tax thing. It has
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense now when you think about it. Yeah. But it also means that these companies are the controlling interest now.
Do you like the idea of these guys selling their whole catalogue?
Yeah, I do. I don't hate it. Purely because.
What Prince is going through right now, or Prince's family?
Oh, yeah, apparently he never left a will. I just read that this morning. He never left a will. So that's why they're releasing all this stuff. I read an interview with one of his old engineers, and they asked her, what do you think about them releasing all this stuff? And she said, well, he wouldn't have liked it if he was alive.
No.
Because if he was alive, he wouldn't have released it. It was the unreleased stuff. But she said, the guy never left a will.
What do you do?
So what do you do? I think I'm for it for the artists because, and I know these are all well-established artists and stuff like that, but when I think about a lot of the independent guys, I heard Steve Kilbey from the Church talk about how we don't have a superannuation, we don't have a financial plan, we literally are living gig to gig, which is most of your artists, not your big ones. But when we go back to our big artists, I think Steve Kilbey, who's written some of the best songs in Australia, could probably sell his... I mean, I don't know of an Australian who is going to come to these Australian artists and say, hey, sell us your back catalogue.
Yeah.
I think a guy like James Rain, with half the stuff he wrote for Australian Grohl, people love, Mark Seymour from Hunters and Collectors could make a killing from his... Neil Finn.
Nick Cave.
Yeah, Nick Cave. Imagine if Neil Finn sold his bloody back catalogue. I wonder if that's what Midnight Oil are going to do.
Or in excess.
Whoa.
Imagine that.
If NXS could sell their back, and I bet you it's for sale too.
Yeah. I reckon secretly
I bet you pounds to peanuts.
Well, I guess when you're doing it like this, you might as well do it. Might as well sell it.
It sort of hasn't hit into the Australian market yet, but I think it's probably going to. It'll trickle down.
Yeah.
But it seems to be the big American artists that are doing it. Now, why I was saying I like it is I think basically it comes down to the lawsuits that were starting to happen.
Right. Okay.
I think it protects these artists from lawsuits. And when I say that, you remember when the what's his name, Robin Thicke came out with that song, Blurred Lines.
Blurred Lines.
Marvin Gaye's
family
sued him, and if you listen,
did they succeed?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They did succeed, which caused a lot of consternation amongst the industry. I remember even Stevie Wonder said, "This is a bad precedent. They should never have done this." But see, I think Marvin Gaye's finances were a complete and utter mess. You know, he wasn't the most stable man in the world, and his death was like his own father shot and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
So Marvin Gaye's family was probably left with probably nothing from this amazing catalogue of music that the man brought out. And so they've had to resort to
suing someone.
Do
you reckon they reached for that? Like, should they have one? Was it really? I didn't listen to it.
I did. All you could say for my personal thing, I mean, they managed to convince a judge and possibly a jury. But all I could say when I listened to it was like, it wasn't exactly the same, but it had the feel.
All right.
So, which meant you could almost sue any hip hop song.
I was about to say, you get to a point where nearly every song has been, like, nearly everything's been done, so it's now starting to regurgitate a bit, you know.
Well, there's only 70 notes, isn't there?
Exactly right. There's not many notes in the
and some artists have said, "Oh, well, what do I want to sue? There's only so many notes."
Yeah.
And
there's rules to music too that you follow to make it in the right chord progressions and things. So, like, look at Beatles; they've done it all very basic chord progressions, and how many bands afterwards have done the same chord progressions but changed a few little things. So it gets to the point where you go, I'm a bit mixed up by that. I don't think I should have sued.
The Beatles don't own their own record.
No, that's true.
Paul McCartney does not own his own music.
About Queen?
I think they do.
I think they still do.
Oh, they have to, because they're
two of them.
Yeah.
Not the bass player.
Oh, I think John still has a financial interest.
Oh, okay, right.
I think he's entitled to it. Geez, he wrote...
Because he had nothing to do with the movie, did he?
Nope.
No.
He had nothing to do with that. But John wrote their biggest hit. Another One Bites the Dust.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. They won I think, bit of trivia for you. I think they're the only band in history where every member wrote a number one single.
Wow.
So, you know.
That's credit.
Yeah. Freddie wrote a couple, Bohemian Rhapsody and I think We Are the Champions.
Mm-hmm. Brian May would have done.
Brian May wrote Will Rock You, which was a double A-side with We Are the Champions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Roger Taylor wrote Radio Gaga.
Mm-hmm.
And John wrote Another One Bites the Dust.
So, you've got talent, haven't you? A talented band.
You know, because I remember when I throw that question to people, they go, "Oh, it's the Beatles." I was like, "No, Ringo didn't write a song."
Didn't he?
No, Ringo, he sang, but Ringo never wrote, or they never took any of Ringo's songs.
Yeah, that's probably. He probably tried heaps.
He probably tried heaps. Well, if you watch Get Back, that documentary, you'll see George just like, "I wrote this song last night. I wrote this song last night," and he's throwing them these songs, and Paul's like, anyway, let's do this. And you can see at the end, George just goes, "You know what? I'm quitting. I'm out of here." And you can see these songs that's why they say when George released his first solo album, it was a triple album.
Oh, wow.
Because he had all these...
Rejects.
He had all these rejects.
All the Beatles rejects.
You know, all the songs that Paul and John wouldn't take. And in the end, Paul and John are like, if you watch that doco, they're like, maybe we've been giving George the raw deal. Maybe we should go back and get George and say, hey, sorry.
Yeah.
Something is a really great song. Something is a great song, you know. But anyway, back to it. I think that set a very, as I said, Stevie Wonder even said, and if anyone probably has their music copied in ways and would be Stevie Wonder.
Mm.
I mean,
lots.
How influential has he been?
Mm.
So, and I don't think Wonder sues. Stevie Wonder doesn't sue people or anything like that, unless it's a blatant rip-off and they don't credit him. And I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
If it is a blatant rip-off and you do not credit or give anything, then you've got to pay the money.
Yeah.
Give the artists what they're due. Back onto it now. These artists, a company pays to own the catalogue. The artist gets a retirement fund, so to speak. They do whatever they can with the money to minimise their tax. And it's up to that company. Then they can actually probably put in the statement, in the sale in perpetuity, saying, well, you can own this music, but it can't be used in a commercial for alcohol or gambling or something like that.
Yep.
You know, and I imagine that probably affects the price.
Mm.
Like, I can't see. I would honestly be surprised. I know Nicky Six has sold Motley Crue. I would be surprised if he were to say, "Yeah, but it can't be used in an alcohol ad." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like some people would have that. I mean, Bruce has sold his for a lot, but Bruce's stuff could be used in music, movies, everything. His music's got that universal appeal to it. So, you know, and plus, Born in the USA sold squillions of copies in America as well. So we tend to forget. So no, I don't have a problem with it. I hope it does trickle down to the Australian artists. I hope there's some companies that start to see the financial value. I imagine Cold Chisel could sell their catalogue, you know, and get they wouldn't be in the financial realm of the American ones.
No.
But I think it could be used.
It could definitely boost their superannuation.
It could definitely boost this. Some of them, I think, need it.
Yeah, probably.
So some of them bloody need it, you know. So if someone came along with the right price and you had the right financial advice, I'd say, yeah.
And I think the other side of it is, like before, we talked about Prince. It does help the family when people do pass away. It makes it a lot easier for them to deal with.
Yeah.
And not have to fight over all this ins and outs of how it all works.
Oh, and there's so much.
Who'd want to know and who'd want to care about it all when those times happen?
Well, didn't it all happen with the Hendrix family, you know?
Yeah, that's
with
true.
Jimi Hendrix's... Yeah. And I don't know, I may have said it on the podcast, or told you this one, and Priscilla Presley.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Elvis's stuff was...
all over the place.
All over the shop. There was stuff coming out of weird little Dutch labels and German labels and all sorts of weird stuff. And it was Priscilla who kind of went... because he left everything to Lisa Marie.
Yeah.
And she's clearly shown that she's, I suppose, not quite financially savvy, I suppose. And it was up to Priscilla to sort of go, okay.
Let's organise all this.
She did. And she did. She's the one who fixed Graceland up to make it a proper tourist attraction. It was. She got a hold of I remember it was just around the time that Junkie XL compilation, that song came out, A Little Less Conversation.
Oh, yeah.
That was the launch of Elvis coming out all under one label.
Right. Okay.
There was no, once she got control of it, she got hold of it all and said, right, it comes out of this. So that says a lot about her and what happened there. But apart from that, Elvis, it was a mess.
Yeah.
And Hendrix's, I think, was a complete mess too. I mean, since Jimi Hendrix died, there's been over 70 releases. The guy only was musically active for 3 years.
Is that all?
Yeah, 67 to 70.
It's in...
You know, did he release 70 albums worth?
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
You know? And the same has happened with Zappa's material too. It's apparently been... That's why there's been a family fight over the Zappa music, because apparently it was left in a mess. Not so much after Frank died, it was after Gail, his wife, who was the business mind behind it. Everyone thought she was running it really well, and apparently she left it in a complete and utter mess.
Well,
So,
I guarantee you that won't happen with Ozzy.
not with Sharon.
Not with Sharon.
Whoa.
That place would be so organised.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, there was always that word, that thing in music. What is it? Never piss off Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah. A lot of people think that too.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, she can make or break your career.
I think she's broken quite a few, to be honest.
I think she has. Just ask Lee Kerslake and Bob Daisley.
Oh, really?
They were the original drummer and bass player on Blizzard of Oz. I told you this story, haven't I?
Who'd you say? Jakey Lee?
No. Lee Kerslake.
Oh, Lee. Okay, right.
Lee Kerslake. He was from Uriah Heep, and Bob Daisley. I don't know where he was from, but he was Australian.
Yep.
And they played on and co-wrote all the songs on the first two Ozzy Osbourne albums.
Right.
Blizzard of Oz and, was it Bark at the Moon or Diary of a Madman?
Diary.
Was Diary the second album?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Not sure. The two Randy Rhoads played on.
Right.
So they were all credited, because Ozzy at that stage was in no condition. I think Ozzy may have got credit, but he was in no condition to write or do anything. It was and those guys basically put those two albums together. And then,
No, you're right.
years later, Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake found that they weren't getting royalty checks anymore.
Oh.
Blizzard of Oz sold like over 5 million copies or something, and they weren't getting royalty checks. And when they looked at it, all the new reissues of Blizzard of Oz had their names removed. And who had played bass? It was Rob Trujillo and on bass and Mike Borden on drums, who were Ozzy's touring band at the time with Zakk Wylde. They re-recorded the bass and drum parts, put them on the record.
That's wrong.
Yeah, that is wrong. I think
and
Sharon...
That's the same with J.K. Lee. He's actually one of the guitar players from Ozzy, and he's only read an article the other day. He doesn't want to sue Ozzy because he hasn't got any credit for his songs he wrote with him.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to sue him. He just wants credit. He wants his name back on the album.
I didn't realise there was a thing with J.K. Lee.
Yeah.
Well, apparently even Ozzy said to Sharon... Apparently Ozzy has claimed that he knew nothing of what Sharon had done.
That wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He wasn't in a state
to
know anything.
No, he wouldn't surprise me. But I think he has basically said to Sharon no, and they re-released it back with Lee Kerslake. But yeah, that just goes to show, don't piss off Sharon.
No, exactly right.
Because imagine how much that would have cost. How much would that exercise have cost?
Yeah.
You know, so
crazy.
I know, it's crazy. Anyway, hopefully these guys can get on the road. I mightn't be going to see them. It's a personal choice, but if you still want to go see mind you, Slipknot, probably go to Slipknot. Probably go to Slipknot.
Just wear a mask. Everyone think you're just a fan.
Yeah. Oh, he's a super fan. You know, if you see him from the back, he's bald.
Yeah, no. I'll go to concerts. I'm not too concerned about not going to things. I can always just wear a mask, whatever I need to do. I don't really worry me. I'm still going to go when I can.
Look, there is nothing like seeing a live band.
And like we discussed before we started this podcast, some people didn't go see Nirvana at fish shows.
Oh, like me.
Yeah. In 92.
We were having a conversation before we started this. We should talk about it because there was mentioned that you should see the bands that you really want to go and see because they mightn't come back because of whatever reasons. You went and saw...
I went and saw Van Halen play at Hollywood Bowl in 2015, and you would never have thought 5 years later that when Eddie passes away, that would have been his last gig.
You never would have.
So I saw it.
Yeah, you never would have seen that. We were talking about the Nirvana gig, the big one at Fish Shows, that if you live on the Gold Coast, it seems like everybody knows somebody who went to that gig.
The owner of this studio went to that gig. He was there. But you talk on the Gold Coast here, and everyone knows somebody who went. But it just seems, there was only supposedly, he said 16,000. Probably more, I don't know, 10's the official thing. That it was Fisherman's Wharf. It was like a club or a pub. That thing was jam-packed with people. But everyone seems to know somebody who went there. Yeah. So it's a legendary gig. And it wasn't a Nirvana concert.
No, the Violent Femmes were the headlining act. Nirvana were the support act. But in the time that the tour was announced, the album came out. Nevermind came out, and Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, and everyone just went, all our minds just went kaboom. We heard that and we just went, it fits. Everything all fell into place. But the saying is, Nirvana never toured again. Never toured Australia again after that.
No,
they were supposed to tour in '94.
Yep.
They were scheduled to tour. They didn't actually have the dates announced, but the promoter had them all locked in, and Kurt died. So, and I was saying that I wanted to go see the Prodigy. Last time they played in Brisbane, I been watching a lot of Prodigy videos on YouTube, and I said I thought I'd like to go. I really should go. I really want to go. They put on a hell of a live show, and I went, no, I won't go. And literally
a month or so later.
It was literally a month later. Keith was dead. So yeah. So look, go see your band if you really want to see them.
Support them
in some way. Right, Chris, we're coming to the end now, so it's time for Cool Thing.
Cool Thing.
Cool Thing. You want me to lead off with a cool thing?
Yeah, go for it.
My cool thing for this particular week is another movie on Netflix, Don't Look Up. the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, directed by Adam McKay, about a comet heading towards the Earth and it's going to destroy us all. But instead of being a big rescue movie, this is a satire and about how social media, politics, pretty much everything, they just throw everything at the wall here. Just everyone's just sort of more obsessed with celebrity culture and social media and their own political side to even think about trying to save the world. It's very funny in a very despairing kind of way, and I like it a lot. It made me laugh very much. I know my wife watched it and hated it, and I thought it was really funny, and I really liked it. I think it's got very mixed reviews, but I like it myself, so Don't Look Up's my cool thing. What's yours, Chris?
My cool thing. I've not read this yet, but I've read the reviews. That's why I got this for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
It's the Dave Grohl book.
The Storyteller.
The Storyteller.
Dave will have a story, won't he?
I tell you, I can't wait. I haven't read his book in the past called The Call.
I haven't heard that one.
The Calling. But I read that years ago, and I liked it. But apparently this one here is a lot more in-depth about the music side of it, but also his personal life. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot bigger book too, so it must have a lot more information in it. But
or a lot of pictures.
Dot. Drawings.
Oh.
It comes with a pen.
Oh.
Just kidding. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to reading that because I do, as an artist, you talked about before about Nirvana, I do like Dave Grohl. I've seen him a couple of times live. He's the friendly musician that everyone loves. And
one thing you've got to love about Dave is he's a fan.
He's a fan of music.
And I love that when I see an artist who's a fan of other artists. Mm. That's why one of the reasons I love Def Leppard.
Oh, really?
Because they're fans.
Yeah.
They're total fans. We can talk about that another time, but yeah.
But I was reading something the other day, actually. Someone said the other day that Dave Grohl ruined rock music.
That's probably me.
No, it was in an interview because what he had done was he broke his leg and stayed on stage and kept playing, which now sets a new standard for other rock musicians. They can't really leave in the middle of an injury or something. They've got to keep playing.
Yeah, well,
which I thought was funny.
Well, Axl Rose did the same thing, and years ago, Axl would have walked off or limped off. Yeah. And
they all stay on.
No, he borrowed. Dave said, "No, here's my throne. You use that." And
Wolfgang did the same thing when he hurt himself recently. He was playing, and he hurt himself. He kept playing, but yeah. So that's my cool thing for the week.
I think Dave Grohl. There's just a little too much Dave Grohl.
There probably is.
Like they've made a movie.
Did they?
Yeah, the Foo Fighters have made a horror movie. They're all in it. I think it's called 666 or something like that. We'll have to look into that a bit more. But I'm like, all right, you could just be a little too much. Dave's directed it or something. It's like there's a little too much Dave Grohl out there, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I think his history will be interesting.
Oh, look, the guy's going to have one of the most interesting musical histories.
Mm.
You know,
For sure.
And you can't hate him. I can't hate the guy.
No.
I'm not. Foo Fighters don't win me as a band, but I like Dave. Dave's cool.
Again, I think some of their earlier stuff's really good, but I think they still have some songs which are just.
Oh, they've got too much filler in their records.
Yeah,
they've never made that truly great record. They've got really good songs.
Yeah.
I will not. And one of my all-time favourite songs is Walk.
Okay.
Yeah. Because at the time I'd injured my leg, and the learning to walk again lyric just really got to me, and I loved it. And so Walk is one of my favourite songs of all time. But they've never made that album that's truly great.
Yeah, all the way through from beginning to end.
Like Nevermind.
True.
From beginning to end, it's great.
Yeah, you can't put it down there.
Oh, speaking of great and from beginning to end, it's time to end it here.
Thank you, Dan.
No worries,
thank you, everybody, for watching. Subscribe, please. And before I do go, just quickly, thank you to those who subscribed and gave us a present of 10 subscribers to bring us to 34 before Christmas. Thank you very much.
If we can get if we can get to 100,000 by the end of the year,
I'll take 50.
We'll take 50, but if we get to 100,000, I'll be more than happy.
We'll give out a prize.
What? What are we going to give? Little James?
No.
What about your little Eddie?
No way in the world.
We're going to have a little Eddie in here soon. We're going to have another little addition to the family.
Little mascot, but anyway. Thank you very much.
See you later.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.